Question number 12. A media company is experiencing latency issues with its video processing application hosted on EC2 instances. The application requires high network throughput. Which EC2 instance type should the solution architect recommend for optimal performance? Our options are T2 instances, C5 instances, M5, and P3 instances. Being able to identify EC2 instance types, at least the larger EC2 instance families, is a valuable skill for the Solution Architect Associate exam. Instance types are a little bit like server model names that you might find in the catalog of a server vendor, and they represent different kinds of design trade-offs in the architecture of a server. The T family instances are optimized around dev and test sorts of workloads, where I know that I'll be using these computers intermittently. I'll use them for a little while, and then they'll be idle for a long time, and then I'll use them really hard for a few minutes, and then they'll be idle for an hour. The T family instances are burstable. They're throttled to a fraction of their rated capacity, but they can burst to full capacity for short periods of time. So they're a very economical way to provide compute for dev and test scenarios. But they're not known for their high network throughput, so they're not our answer. The C family of instances are compute heavy. C family instances have a 2-to-1 ratio of gigabytes of RAM to virtual CPUs, sometimes also referred to as CPU cores. So that's a fairly high proportion of CPU power relative to the amount of memory that it has. By contrast, the M family is a family of general purpose instances, and they have a 4-to-1 ratio of gigabytes of RAM for each virtual CPU. And the R family, you can think about RAM when you see R family, are memory optimized. They have 8 gigabytes of RAM for every virtual CPU. So you can see that at a 2-to-1 ratio of RAM to CPU, C5 instances are relatively CPU heavy. A good choice for applications that need a lot of CPU power, but not as much memory. So T family instances, dev and test, burstable activity. C5 instances, CPU heavy. M family instances, general purpose. And that leaves the P family. The P family is probably most famous for being the instance type where we find GPUs. These are the NVIDIA processors you've heard so much about on financial news lately. They're used for things like machine learning, image processing, neural networks. And those systems are well known for not only the need for specialized processing power to be able to do the compute involved in those tasks, but also high network performance to be able to get the quantity of data onto that computer to do the machine learning training or to manage the large images being processed in that workload. So as you've guessed, P3 is probably our best choice here. I would have chosen that same answer if the question was looking for an instance that was particularly well suited to machine learning work or neural network analysis of a solution.